played the game of life? Perhaps you've sat down during family night and enjoyed a game or two. The rules were fairly simple. You start out as a man or a woman, working his way through, you guessed it, life. The game tended to be a bit complicated with things like stocks, jobs, good and bad events. It's only natural that one consider the background. Here's a quick rundown. The game was first created as a board game by Milton Bradley. If that name rings any bells, that should come as no surprise. Milton Bradley is a fairly big game company these days, who continue to produce board games like Battleship, Candyland, and Yahtzee. If you ever look up what sorts of board games they've created and manufactured, there's quite a few you recognize on the list, and a whole bunch you've never heard of, and most of them are crap. But enough about that. How's the game? Well, considering the type of game that it is, specifically derived from a board game, you can probably expect the same old game of life. That's only half correct. It's the game of life, and then some, with plenty of bonuses. There's a large number of maps that correspond with the various stages of life. You begin as a baby, though considering that the game uses the likeness of your me, the only resemblance between any of the age groups is the actual clothing on your body. You go through several stages of your me's actual lifespan: baby, kid, elementary schooler, middle schooler, high schooler, college, or community college. Then the bread and butter, adulthood. So it should come as no surprise that at some point you're going to get to pick your job. There's a wide list of jobs to choose from, including airline pilot, movie director, musician, and even sports pro. But these all require set amounts of life points. Each time you pass through payday spaces, these are marked with the yen symbol, you have a chance of a rank up. Personally, I think that the chances of this increase and decrease as you do well or poorly when landing on workspaces. There's a variety of other things to the game than just the ups and downs of your me's life. One of these is participating in Christmas, where the opportunity to give gifts to the other characters in your opposition results in the loss of a few points. All in all, this doesn't hinder you too much, but it's good to have a lot of points for later on in the game when they start handing out the money bonuses. Similarly, you can also gather cards. Many of these do beneficial things, like allow you to move a set number of spaces, force your opponent to only move a certain number of spaces, allow you to immediately hold special events normally only allowed when stepping on certain tiles, and a handful of them can be sold later on in the game for bonus cash. When you're getting towards the end of the actual game, which for some reason the game has this tendency of drawing the game out for more turns than you originally selected, you wind up in what I can only guess is either heaven or limbo. You go through several more turns, including crossing a bridge where you may or may not have to give life points or money to opponents, until you get to the big one, a showdown with the devil. Okay, so the devil in this case isn't particularly intimidating, but compared to the angel, you're just not sure which one to go with. There are several options that allow you to get your hands on a ton of last-second cash, or you may lose it all and wind up in what I assume is limbo or hell, because there's only a small circle of things and one actual tile that I can only assume is the way out of that stupid place. Unfortunately, the game never lasts long enough for this to actually happen, because whoever else got lucky is zooming past you all the way to the throne to end the game. So, what do I have to say about the game of life? I'd say it's a great game to sit down to if you've got a couple hours. The cutscenes are fairly humorous, and it's worth several sit-downs with friends and family. For family night. Unfortunately, you may have to import this. The actual English Wii version of the game may be difficult to find, if you can find it at all. While this line of games is relatively popular in Japan, it just didn't quite get off the ground here in America, unfortunately. There's a few issues I have with the game. The bad event tiles seem to pop up far more frequently than the good ones. The minigames can be incredibly confusing the first time around if you're not fluent in Japanese, and the game pretty much makes a mockery of your efforts by almost forcing you to play an almost double or nothing game at the end of the actual game itself. So, for the most part, the game is almost purely luck from start to finish, and actually winning almost comes down to whoever's the craziest and luckiest person once you start dealing with the devil. The actual spinning to find out how many tiles you can skip can be pretty confusing as well. I don't think that the board layouts were really all that thought out, as many tiles seem to come up far too quickly, especially if you're on a roll with getting good numbers. The mini-games are few and simple, which are unsurprising, but many of them are unresponsive, and the trivia game will be like a 20-minute miniature hell for anyone who doesn't know Japanese. Payday, which forces you to sit and play a roulette to determine how much cash you make, only cements the fact that this game focuses almost exclusively on luck and requires extremely little skill or knowledge to pull off. This works out best for people who aren't fluent in Japanese because all you need to know is the most basic of Japanese to get anything out of the game. Similarly, you'll need a freeloader or other device to allow you to get past the Wii's infuriating region lock to actually play this on an American Wii, which doesn't help much if you're even remotely interested in picking this game up. Is it worth picking up? Depends on if you like board games or not, because that's all the game really is. It's a sophisticated board game with a lot more interactivity and a lot less thought needed to accomplish actually playing. If you've got a freeloader and want to entertain yourself for a few hours, look for it and import it. Unfortunately, there's nothing to really do with the game besides play it against a computer or 4 of your friends. There's nothing unlockable. The only customization feature in the game is what Wii you register. But if you've always wanted to follow Hitler or Chuck Norris through their childhood, well, now's your chance.